Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us with our Rest Centers workshop. You can reach Rest Centers at www.restcenters.org. You can also go on our YouTube channel for this workshop and many others on the BYM Peel YouTube channel. I am so excited to announce today that we have Valerie Williams from the Family Education Center, and she has so much experience working with families, working with children and youth in the Peel District School Board. And, this is a very exciting workshop because many of our youth have children. Many of our youth are at risk for homelessness or homeless because of family situations. So we found that this was a very important workshop to have, not only to help us as parents, but also to help us understand our parents. Rest Centers, as you know, is an art charity, 5 years now, that helps youth 17 to 24 who are at risk of homelessness or homeless. We also help with life skills programs, which are like like this workshop, and we also help with grocery cards every other week. So if you are interested in becoming part of this program, again, living in the Peel region, 17 to 24, and at risk of homelessness or homeless, please call us at 905-863-1118. So I'm handing it over to you, Valerie.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
being
much.
here.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. And I have to say, I love your program. It almost can bring tears to my eyes when I think about youth who are at risk of being homeless. So thank you for running that program. As you said, my name is Valerie Williams, and I'm a parent educator with the Family Education Center. It's a center in Peel that serves all of Peel. And I would encourage everybody to go on their website. They have awesome programming. They have virtual programs. They have online courses. They have podcasts. And they have parent tips that you're able to download and use as you see fit. The last thing I'd like to say about the Family Education Center is that they use the Adlerian psychology philosophy in all of their training. So those of you who have some psychology background, you will appreciate that with the Adlerian theory, they promote mutual respect. So today, I want to talk to you about parenting styles. We say here 3 parenting styles. Most of you will know that there are more than 3 parenting styles, but we're focusing on 3 for today. And I want to read what this says because I feel like it will really clarify the approaches that are being used. So it says that for generations, we lived in authoritarian societies based on superior versus inferior relationships between men and women, between parents and children, and teachers and students. Punishment and reward was the accepted method of discipline, and power was used to gain control over others. Every man and every child knew what was expected of them, and parenting methods had been established through years of tradition. However, in the past few decades, our society has evolved to the point where we're moving from an authoritarian society towards being a more democratic society. Within a democratic society, it's based on equality, cooperation, mutual respect, order, limits, and responsibility. Equality means that people, despite all their abilities and differences, have equal rights to be treated with dignity and respect. You have to know that your children are very sensitive to their social atmosphere and their sense of equality with adults, and they will not tolerate adult authority. That's a very harsh thing for some parents to hear, but unfortunately, as we move forward, it is a reality. Freedom is a part of democracy, but we cannot have freedom unless we respect freedom from others. For everyone to have freedom, we must have order, otherwise, it would be absolute chaos. For order, we need limits and responsibilities. Traditional parenting methods we learned as children are not working anymore. Parents don't know what to do with their children, so we need to learn new parenting strategies. So I will move further and tell you what the three strategies we are talking about. There's authoritarian, there is permissive, and there's democratic. You can see for yourself. So we'll just look at the first few and compare them. With an authoritarian parenting style, the parent are the authority figures. With a permissive parenting style, there is no leadership, but with a democratic, there is a knowledgeable leader. Authoritarian, again, there is power. One person is in power, and that's usually the parents. When it's a permissive style, there is tyranny. And tyranny means that everything is allowed to run amok. And with a democratic, there is influence, which means the parents can and do and should have some influence over their children and their children's behavior. In authoritarian, there's a lot of pressure. The parent puts a lot of pressure on the children. In a permissive, there is guilt, where the parents make the children feel guilty. And sometimes the children feel guilty because they themselves sometimes recognize that they're not behaving in the ways that are sometimes appropriate. And even when they compare themselves to their peers, they see that their peers have some more responsibilities than they do. So that's where the guilt comes in. In a democratic, the parents do provide stimulation for their children. Authoritarian, I could continue. It's demanding, there's punishment, there is reward, there is superior versus inferior relationships, there's domination. Children are to be seen and not heard. And a lot of us come from households where we've heard that children are to be seen and not heard. In permissive, manipulating, inconsistency, bribery, manipulative relationships, insecurity. When we go back to looking at democratic, we talk about winning cooperation. You cannot have winning cooperation without everybody working together. That's how you will know that you're winning and that people are cooperating. There's logical consequences. And what logical consequences are, just briefly, is where you're looking at the behavior. You're not, the behavior is what you're focused on. You're not focused on punishing the child. You're focusing on, does this behavior make sense? So that if your child is riding his bike, your 3-year-old, let's say, is riding his bicycle out into the street, the consequence you would give for that is not having him go to bed earlier. The consequence would be you're riding your bike in the street, so you have a choice. You either ride where you've been told, like on the sidewalk, or you do not ride at all. And when we start using those logical consequences with our children at an early age, they learn to make sense of it. And sometimes they themselves will tell you, they will understand and will tell you what a logical consequence should be. So always logical, it's where it's focused on the behavior and not on the doer so much. There is guidance, there's mutual respect, and we do it because it is necessary. Whatever behaviors, the entire family, that's what it means by we, the entire family, they're doing it because it is necessary for the entire family and it works for the entire family. Are there any questions so far, Rebecca?
So yes, I have a question. Based off of what you're explaining, if our youth are in a home where our parents are authoritarian, as you explained, that's traditionally what's happening, but we are democratic due to the fact that we're now dealing with multicultural homes. Our children are Canadian, but we are not, because they've evolved. They go to school. We don't go to school. We go to work, where we don't have that school system to learn the culture, learn to become Canadian, that kind of thing. I mean, yes, we take our citizenship course to learn the facts, but not the non-facts. You know what I mean? The implicit biases and the unspoken rules. How does our youth, for example, cope in an authoritarian home without causing conflict? Because sometimes you said it's the whole family. So are there any suggestions that if you do have an authoritarian parent, how can I, as a child or the youth, kind of have that democracy or communicate? Because I don't want to be kicked out of my house.
Yes. And you've seen that only too often from what you're doing in your work. One of the ways I think we could best foster this is negotiating. Parents and children should negotiate, have to negotiate, must negotiate.
It's not a bad thing.
Right? And so let's say a 16-year-old will have, let's use curfew as an example. A 16-year-old, the parent might want them in at 9 o'clock. The child might want, the youth might want to come in at 12 o'clock. The only way you're going to get to that middle ground, that winning cooperation that we talked about earlier, is negotiate. It is not impossible, it can be done. So then what you would have to do is talk to your child. You want to come in at 12, I want you to come in at 9. How are we going to come to a middle ground? And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's one of the more workable solutions when you negotiate with your child. Because you can have your authoritarian approach, or a parent can have the authoritarian approach, but the child who has very different thinking is going to say, well, all my friends are coming in at midnight. I am not coming in at midnight. I'm not coming in at 9. And it becomes an ongoing battle. So when you negotiate, you might be able to have a more winning cooperative society situation.
So sometimes, so in other words, youth, instead of just defying the curfew and being that authoritarian child to say, well, I'm going to punish you by defining the curfew, maybe be that democratic child to say, mom and dad, can I talk to you about it? Or mommy, can I talk to you about it? Because on the flip side, the parents are dealing with other parenting styles. You know, their friends may be in a permissive family. Their friends might be in a democratic family. And you can't control the other friends' parenting styles.
You're right. You
How
only
do
have
we,
control. Go
how
ahead.
do we adapt to it in order to get the child, our child, on board with everything?
And so if we're working toward getting your child on the authoritarian side of it is going to be more difficult, because in this situation, the child doesn't really see how they can win. Because if we stay with the curfew scenario, you're telling a 16-year-old, as an example, to come in at 9, and they're saying they're not coming in at 9. What could continue to happen is the conflict can continue, and it gets worse sometimes. So if you're able to, as a parent, sit the child down and say, okay, I'm wanting you at 9, you want at midnight, how are we gonna come to a middle ground? And negotiate that and work with that. It's not easy. We know that parenting is not easy.
Oh, no.
It never has been. And whether you use whichever approach you use, authoritarian, permissive, or democratic, none of it is easy. So this is why having some respect for the fact that your child has a desire to come home later, you sit down and talk to the child and meet in the middle somewhere. That would definitely be my recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So they've summarized it here very nicely, and I wanted to show you that. So in a democratic, it's equality, freedom, order, limits, responsibility, discipline, dignity. Some of the words in here I really love. Dignity. You have to treat your child with dignity, because the way we treat our children at home, as an example, is the way they're going to be expected to be treated outside of the home. So an example of that, if you're the parent who yells at your child, who hits your child, then they don't learn what dignity and mutual respect is. So when they go to school, as an example, they will not be able to show respect to their teachers and to their peers, and are more likely to get into conflict. So if it starts early in the household where everybody is respecting, everybody is using self-control, chances are your child is going to get along better in school. Versus if it's just authoritarian, where somebody is always vying for power and control, and where they see that one person always has to be superior, because whenever there's one person who is superior, there's one person who will be inferior. So if that's what we're promoting at home, your child is going to take that to school as well. And let's say they want to be the superior person at school and get into fights and arguments and physical fights, that is, with other children, then we know that will not end well.
Yeah.
Okay. And in a permissive, you want to teach your children to, it's not about doing your own thing. You can't do your own thing when you live in a family. You have to work within the structure of that family. You may want to have your dinner at 4 o'clock the minute you get home from school, but the rest of us may have other activities where we're not ready, or dinner may not even be ready till 5:30, 6 o'clock. So you have to learn to respect the wishes of the entire family.
Mhm.
Any questions about any of that?
I think you explained it very well.
Thank you, thank you. So that is about the summary of what the differences between the parenting styles are. So I'm open to other questions if you
So we do
have them.
So again, I think the biggest question we have is how do we keep check? Can we go back to the 3 questions that you mentioned?
Yes.
So this is a way to keep check that you're doing the right way, but how do we, it's
Go
more
ahead.
than that. How do we, when we have childhood trauma, when we have abuse in our family or we've been abused, how do we not have that trauma affect our parenting style?
And that trauma is bound to affect parenting style. And knowing that it will affect your parenting style is also, it's pretty critical. And so, but you have to have that addressed. You really have to deal with that even before you start parenting. And definitely, if not before, during your parenting process, because everything that we bring into our relationships with our children will impact them.
I love that. Can you expand on that? Because you just said a good point. You know, we tend to focus relationships with our partners, with our spouses, with that kind of love, but we don't tend to say that our children, a parent and child, is a relationship. And it's a relationship that is actually individual with each child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when we speak about equality, it's equality in the democratic process, but equity when it comes to each child, because each child will have, I say I had 3 children come out of the same place, but they're 3 completely different children.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like unbelievable.
And all, go ahead, Rebecca, go ahead.
So
Finish your question,
how do you
please.
deal with that? How do you deal with establishing a relationship with each of your children?
These relationships have to start early. I talk to parents about championing their child.
Yes.
So if you have 3 children, you have to be, and 3 children with, like you say, completely different personalities, completely different expectations, but you have to know your child, each individual child, know their likes and dislikes. No, because even with having those 3 children, maybe one child you may need to use a little more authoritarian or a little more democratic or a little more permissive, because you're looking at the individual child as well. So, what I perhaps did not say earlier is that we all use a little bit of these. Just because Family Education Center might promote a democratic style does not mean that we think nobody uses authoritarian anymore or nobody uses permissive. We all, if we're honest, use a little bit of each at different times, depending on the circumstances. So when you talk about having 3 children, sometimes, and children, by the way, will pick up on this very quickly. If you are allowing one child, and we tend to do this, because one child, the personality is such that we may have to just come down a little bit harder on them. So it's authoritarian. Whereas with another child, you can use the democratic approach much better, because that child already responds well to, let's say, encouragement. Mm-hmm. You can get them, sit them down and get them to, you can encourage them to be a little more cooperative. One of the things I talk to parents, Family Education Center actually has a module where they talk about family meetings. And I think some of the question you just asked, Rebecca, when you're having regular family meetings with your children, you're talking about issues that come up. That come up for yourself, come up for other family members, and definitely comes up for your child. So family meetings are a way that you can talk about what's going on within the family, and even the example you gave before, where the child may be defying authoritarian. If you sit down, and you and your partner, that is, and everybody in the family for that matter, should be a part of these family meetings, and just lay it out. This is what's happening in our family. This is what we would like to see, and this is where we need to go from here.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I mean, this has been very eventful. I really, on behalf of the people watching, you know, if you're a parent, you've gotten that insight. If you're a youth and are having trouble with your parents, you've also gotten insight, just understanding how your parents can give you that way, because sometimes, as you said, Valerie, the children have to teach the parents.
In some cases they do, yeah.
In some cases they do. So I really want to thank you for being part of it. How can we get in touch with you?
Well, through the Family Education Center. Please always reach me through Shailene, and I'll be happy to set up, if she's interested in setting up another, or if you're interested in another workshop, please go through Shailene. And Shailene Little, the Director of Programming, Family Education Center. That's how you can best reach me.
Wonderful. Thank you for being part of Rest Center, and I look forward to a lot more work together. And I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and thank you for the work you're doing with Rest Center. We need to know more about Rest Center. You did share a little bit, but definitely the schools need to know more about Rest Center and community organizations, because until I spoke to you today, I did not know to promote the agency. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.